What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the ThrashManiac99 YouTube channel, and I am back for another album review for you guys. So yeah, this will be the first of two album reviews that I'm doing this weekend. Tomorrow will be the second one, most likely going to be for the new Sonata Arctica album, but for this one, I wanted to cover something a little bit different compared to, well, actually a lot different from Sonata Arctica. I heard about this band through Thralls of Metal, particularly Necrotic Nick, because he did a review for this album yesterday, and this was on my radar on my list of albums I definitely wanted to check out, and this one interested me because it's a Death Doom album. I am talking, of course, about the latest offering from Florida Death Doom band Druid Lord called Relics of the Dead. So yeah, Druid Lord, a Death Doom band that's from Orlando, Florida, and I believe that this is actually their third album, because their first album came out in 2010, then it was 8 years until their second album came out. Here, this was about 4 years gap, so they kind of shrunk the gap in half pretty much for this one, and this is their third offering, so this is my first time listening to this band. So let's see how it stacks up for me. So we kick things off with the title track, Relics of the Dead, starting off with some horror soundtrack music before the riffs come in and we get blast beats, which you don't really hear a lot of blast beats in Death Doom bands, unless you're like Disembowelment or something like that. But yeah, and these riffs and blast beats, while they're going on, we hear some melodic leads going on in the background, and after those leads are done, we go straight into Death Doom territory. Now, one thing I definitely noticed with the vocals here, and it continues throughout the rest of the album, the vocals are very, very gravelly on this whole thing. Like, it sounds like, if I were to best kind of describe how the vocals are, I would describe it as like a mixture of Tom G. Warrior from Celtic Frost, Triptychon, Hellhammer, with Nick Holmes of Paradise Lost and Bloodbath, mixed in with a little bit of Grutle Kylson from Enslaved, with a little bit of maybe Nocturno Culto from Darkthrone. So it's like that balance between like death metal and black metal vocals, because the growls kind of fall into the Tom Warrior, Nick Holmes territory, but there's a lot of black metal vocals going on throughout this album, especially on this track. But we get those different vocal styles after things go really, really, really Death Doom. We get a cool breakdown on this track with some crazy double bass work going on around the 2 minute 45 second mark. And then afterwards, and it leads into some more of those doomy riffs, and a lot of these riffs here are very reminiscent of like early Paradise Lost and Hood and Menace. And then after you get all those fantastic riffs, we get into like a Black Sabbath swing section that, with the way that the track grooves until it reaches the conclusion of the song. So yeah, a lot of different elements going on here right off the bat with the opening track. 13 Days of Death starts off with this dark, ethereal riff that really sets the mood for the track. The riff then turns thick, chunky, and heavy, and it fucking rules. Things do get a little bit faster here, and we get a quick sinister lead. Then we get into a black metal section with a riff that's very much like a lot of tremolo riffs going on, and the blast beats are very much black metal inspired. It gets back to the doominess with yet another lead, which this time the lead had a little bit more technical execution, and it sounded a bit more murky. Into another black metal riff and blast beat, followed by more leads to just make things sound even more evil, and the riffs keep changing and they're always good. Things do slow down towards the end with some ethereal ambience in the background, and then afterwards, another dark, sinister lead to close this song out. Mangled as the Hideous Feed is the next track. riffs immediately pounding your skull to begin this track, and a lot of these riffs are very Black Sabbath and Celtic Frost inspired. And already a minute in, we get another tasty lead. And also a lot of the riffs on this track are some of the catchiest of the album overall. Another quick evil lead coming in around the halfway point. Some more of that dark ambience popping in to add more evil to the atmosphere that the song's projecting. Things slow down even further as the song is building up through that darkness, and continues to remain slow and dark to the final conclusion. Nightside Conjuring, just a little interlude track, but it was really well done with a horror movie sample in the beginning. Wonderful acoustic guitars with some electric guitars kind of coming in a little bit faintly to kind of add a little more dark melody. So this was a nice interlude track for me. Then we get into Immolated into Ashes, starting off with a fast black metal riff to get things started on the grim side, while the drums are building up towards the doom riff that follows suit after the black metal beginning. Some melody popping in with the riff as well to add more dark embellishments. Tempo picks up a little bit before it slows back down. Afterwards we get some more black metal as well as a quick lead. Then we get an Asphyx inspired riff that leads into another black metal section with a quick lead once again. Back to the slow doomy riffs before we get probably the best lead of the entire album. It was brilliantly put together. Well performed, well executed, no complaints right there. Festering Tombs, thick riff with some melodic play to begin this track, and after some more dark riffs we get another tasty lead as things pick up in the tempo a little bit into another Celtic Frost inspired part. Melodic riff to add more evil vibes, followed by a sinister breakdown. We get into probably the most death metal sounding section of the album as the riff is getting chunky, the double bass is going, and then to end the track we get some melodic and harmonic tremolo riffs to finish the song off, and then we get to Monarch Macabre. Dark melodic lead that kind of feels like an evil Pink Floyd solo to get things started on a dark note immediately before getting into a heavy melodic riff. That dark lead that started things off after the riff comes back and it just expands even further to create a feeling of dread. After a brooding riff, a thick riff comes in that has more of that dark feel. Another lead coming in, and all the leads on this track just kept getting better and better and better all throughout the track. And this track definitely feels like the closest thing to like a band like Hooded Menace, for example, through the melodies and them evil riffs going on throughout this track. And then finishing off with a quick organ outro with Ethereal Decay. Kind of felt like that was maybe a bit unnecessary, personally. I think Monarch Macabre would have been a better way to kind of conclude things on the album. But for nearly 42 minutes, this didn't feel like a 42-minute album. In fact, I was hoping for a little bit more afterwards. So yeah, overall, there are some memorable riffs on here. There's a lot of different elements going on. There's some death metal, lots of doom, a little bit of black metal coming in throughout the cut of the album, or throughout the album as a whole. You get like different vocals, like you get that more gravelly, low-end vocal, and then them black metal shrieks going on. Like I said, I described the vocals earlier, so there you have it with that. But I guess the only thing I could really find to complain about is that I wish that when they were doing the leads, they didn't do too many quick leads, and that they could have done like all those as if it was one big gigantic lead, instead of breaking them apart with the riffs. I feel like it kind of makes the song structuring feel a little bit jarring for my taste. Especially on the song, let me go back and find in my notes which one where he had so many lead changes. Immolated in the Ashes. It's not that the leads themselves were bad, it's just they were too quick and they kept getting broken apart by these great riffs. I just personally wish that they could have mashed together some of those leads into one gigantic long lead, and I think more people would appreciate some of the lead work on this album a little bit more if they were more combined instead of separated and spread out throughout the song and the album itself. So that's really the only thing I could find to complain about. Is I just wish that on the tracks where you got like lead, then a riff, lead, riff, that they could have just mashed together a couple leads into one long lead section before getting to the riff. But that's just my personal opinion. But overall, this is still a great fucking album. This is definitely I guess the simplest way to kind of describe the music on here, it feels like a mixture of Hooded Menace and like Ravishing Grimness era Darkthrow kind of combined together a little bit. So overall, great album. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this album, despite the complaint that I had about with the leads being broken up too much. This is a great album, and I definitely feel like the more I listen to it, I think I'll like it a little bit more. We just gotta wait and see on that throughout the course of the year. And we're still in the beginning of the year, for crying out loud. So I got plenty of time to digest this even further. But what did you guys think of Relics of the Dead by Druid Lord? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, horns high, and I will see you soon.
You know, it was pretty organic. I have a rocker dad. So growing up, there were not only like driving in his car and around the house, there was great music playing, but you know, if I was ever able to sneak into the man cave of the basement that he had, that was, you know, off limits after a certain hour. You know, there was a cool collection of vinyl. That's where titles like Fistful of Metal, Violence and Force, Number of the Beast, Kiss's Destroyer, which was massive for me. You can imagine being a 6-year-old kid and pulling out the LP cover for Destroyer.
Oh yeah.
How life-changing that could be.